Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a break with Stephen Shamus.
What's up, Alex? Good to see you again, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
How's it going? I see you have your Mattel shirt on. You're ready to rock and roll. What's with the Mattel shirt?
Proud of Mattel. I'm just a toy guy, man. You know, I love toys.
So let's say I'm a Hasbro and you're a Mattel. Then what do? Do we like rumble?
I have Hasbro stuff too. It's not. I'm not one or the other.
Okay. I thought you
I'm
were
not taking sides in this bet.
You're taking right. You're taking sides, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's the okay. All right.
All
right, Alex. So what do we got on tap for today?
Yeah. Let's talk a little Static Shock in Milestone. Because some announcements happened and we think it's going to be big. Let's go ahead and talk about some more stuff that's happening in like the movie and TV world. U.S. Agent. We can talk Why the Last Man, and let's dip a little bit more into that Marvel trading cards. Some stuff starting to catch fire.
Stuff's on fire.
Yeah.
You know, I had a feeling a few years ago it was going to be on fire. We've seen more and more trading cards get signed at the shows. You know, in the sports card world, it's such a big deal. And we'll talk about that a little bit, about how the comic world sort of trails the sports market a little bit, and that's on fire as well. So that's pretty cool. All right, Alex, what are we kicking off with?
Yeah, let's talk Static Shock.
So Static Shock has an interesting path in history in terms of where it started, where it came from, where it is today. It's been a long and winding road. Right, that's you like my little Paul McCartney.
I do. Yeah. I'd put it in. I'll put it in the edit, but I don't want to get sued. So just think of it in your head.
Oh, okay. All right, you got it, Alex. So I could sing it for you if you like.
Your choice.
Maybe I could hum it a little bit.
I think we all know it. Good enough.
All right, that's good enough. Okay, good. All right. So back in June of '93, Static #1 came out. It was Dwayne McDuffie, and it was at the time, people didn't realize what a seminal moment it was, but this was a Black creator-owned line of comic books with Black superheroes. Now, that was 1993,
right?
And then you had Black Panther come out in 2018.
Yeah.
So, you know, it wouldn't be 25 years later until you really, so yes, you had Blade and you had some of the other ones, but it really wasn't until Black Panther hit the screen that you started to realize what this vision could be. And, you know, these guys were obviously ahead of their time. It's taken a very sort of offbeat path. However, now that Michael B. Jordan has been announced to play in the new Static film, these books have shot up. They've skyrocketed.
Totally.
Right. So, and to try to go back to find these books from 27 years ago is very, very difficult. At the time, they did print a decent amount of these books. I do remember they coming out. There was a lot.
Yeah, the Milestone books were pretty well. Although, you know, out of all the Milestone books, Static was definitely the one that everybody continuously bought, and that was the book that everybody loved. That was the character.
Right.
But the Milestone books, yeah, I mean, pretty well received. I mean, they're in the DC universe. It was an offshoot of the DC universe. They intermixed a bunch, so.
Right. So there are, so on Static #1, there are 46 blue label 9.8s. There's 2 gold label 9.8s, and there are 22 9.6s. So they're very, very low pop. Up until, quite frankly, up until Michael B. Jordan announced that he was in the movie, there really would have been no reason to get these books CGC graded.
Just
right
as fans,
now,
yeah.
Right, just as fans, right? So right now, the 9.8s are selling for about $400. I don't think you're going to see a lot more 9.8s pop out of there, Alex. I don't think people really bagged and boarded these things and stuck them in a closet for 27 years. I think they've been out there. I think they've kicked around. I think that even finding raw copies today, you know, you can find them. Try to get yourself a nice high-grade copy. See if you can get a 9.6, pull out a 9.8 possibly. But yeah, that's going to set you back $400. And what's interesting about this book is this was also at a time when you had the variant cover craze. Yes. So there's actually a bunch of different variants for this book too. Some are harder to find than the others, and we'll go through them as well. So there's a Static #1, there's Collector's Edition, where it says Collector's Edition right on the cover. There's a little bit higher pop on that book. There's 107 blue label 9.8s. There are 2 gold label 9.8s, and that's about a $400 book. And then there's a platinum version. You know, DC was doing that back in the day. They were doing the platinum versions of all the Supermans and everything like that. And the platinum version, there are 26 blue label 9.8s and only 2 gold label 9.8s. And those books are about $900. And I would imagine that when shows do come back or Michael B. Jordan starts signing autographs, whether it's at an event or at San Diego or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're going to get a signature series of those books. Those are going to sell for huge money.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the static character a little bit, Alex? Or
yeah, I mean, you know, one of the great things about this character, and you know, again, probably the most popular of the Milestone characters, you know, was that, you know, the comic did really well, and the comic was around forever. And then they did a cartoon. Warner Brothers did a cartoon, which was very well received. This was the time of like Batman Beyond type era of Warner Brothers cartoons, just League Unlimited stuff. And it was well. I mean, I remember watching it. I remember people like watching it. And again, black superhero, mainstream cartoon series, not something that was prevalent in that era. And even though that was a 2000s cartoon, you know, so there's a lot of people, and I think Michael B. Jordan is probably prime example, grew up with this character. And then you watch the cartoon and you go in the comic book shops and there's nothing. There was nothing for many years until New 52 that really relaunched the character and brought him kind of more to the forefront. And DC's been using him for a little while now.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, this character's on fire.
Yeah.
And then after the Platinum version, back in 2001, so it wasn't until 8 years later until you saw the next series, which was Static Shock, Rebirth of the Cool. That came out in January of 2001. Mm-hmm. There's only one blue label, 0 gold labels. That book is a $40 to $60 raw book. And you know, Alex, when we talk about raw books, if you've got a $40 to $60 raw book, you've got hundreds and hundreds of dollars in 9.8.
Yes.
Hundreds and hundreds. So that's a book where you should try to pick up in any raw form at all. I actually don't remember that book from 19
Yeah, it
years
slipped
ago.
under the radar.
Kind of slipped under the radar, right? Which is probably why it's so expensive.
Exactly.
And then it wasn't for another 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Where then they released the Static Shock special in 2011. Okay. So that was August of 2011. There is a 0 pop. That's a $20 to $30 raw book.
Wow.
So try to find one raw. Just try to buy one, right? Try to go find one. So I think that kind of wraps it up for Static Shock. Yep. Again, you really have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 really good options. I think you have time to buy them before the film comes out, before you start to see the prices skyrocket. Because look, Michael B. Jordan, I mean, between Black Panther, Creed 2, like he's a hit maker, right? Yeah. He's a hit maker.
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, obviously they're going to lean into Static Shock, but definitely start picking up some of the others titles. Other than Milestone stuff. It's not a lot of books. They're probably cheap enough to purchase them all right now. Probably get some good CGCs if they're out there, hardcore. I mean, it's a good. If Static Shock does well, they're going to expand.
Oh, no question about it. And it's a great tribute to Dwayne McDuffie as well. Definitely. What do we got up next, Alex?
Yeah, let's talk U.S. Agent. I mean, we've seen pictures, we've seen clips, we know he's coming, so let's talk about him.
Yeah, we know he's coming.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of books that have started to skyrocket.
Yeah. Yes.
The first appearance, not as much as when he actually becomes U.S. Agent, because I think the cover
costume.
Is so
the
costume and the cover is really, really, really great. So John Walker first appears in November of 1986 in Captain America number 323. It's the first John Walker. There are approximately, there are 68 blue label 9.8s. There are 18 gold label 9.8s. And I think once the series comes out and they start signing autographs, I think you're going to start to see the actors autograph these books as well. And that book right now is about a $265 book.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is the money book right now. Captain America 354, June of 1989. Captain America did not have a low print run. This book has been kicking around for a while. So there are books out there. You can buy them raw, but 9.8s are tough. Alex, these are tough. So John Walker becomes the U.S. Agent. There's 24 blue labels. There are 2 gold label 9.8s. The last one sold at $350. They're incredibly scarce. I would not be surprised if the next ones go in the $400 to $500 range. Talk a little bit about U.S. Agent. What's what's John Walker, right? What's Sam Wilson? What's Steve Rogers? What's his relationship? Who is he, and why is the MCU bringing him in to this Winter Soldier Falcon show?
Yeah, and it's weird because I mean we could talk political climate and all that stuff if you want, but I mean the U.S. Agent Walker was a kind of your Midwest Southern American, where Captain America was a northern Brooklyn American, joining the war and everything. Walker is your opposite. Same values, but they're both Americans fighting for America. But you see a little bit of different kind of tone in the books there. And then at some point, Captain America leaves and Jeff Walker does become Captain America. And it's the U.S. pushes Walker on the public. And I think you're going to see this happen in the Winter Soldier, Falcon Winter Soldier, is Falcon becomes Captain America, but Captain America is a U.S. The government's agent. So it's going to be a toss up, but it's going to be the U.S. government puts Walker in place to replace Captain America, and there's going to probably be some fighting because just like the comics, U.S. agent and Captain America fought, and hopefully he turns out to be a good guy in the end and not a villain. I know in the comic series they've pushed U.S. agent as a hero. Again, different views doesn't mean you're not a hero, and that's one of the things that they were pushing with Captain America and U.S. agent is they both were for America, but they had different ways that they wanted to get stuff done.
Yeah, what I do like about what the MCU is doing, even with the Vision show and Scarlet Witch, where you hear that Vision is going to be there. What I do like is that they're not just telling another story with the same characters.
Right.
They're trying to give you another element, right? Like it would have been very easy to just do Bucky Barnes and Falcon. They go on their adventures and they do their thing and they tell another origin story.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they're doing. They're making Sam Wilson Captain America, which we've seen in the comics.
Yep.
They're bringing John Walker, U.S. agent. Their Vision now is all of a sudden going to be in the WandaVision show. Yep. Like, I like that they're, and even, with the new Hawkeye show where you're going to see, the young girl take over the Hawkeye role.
Bishop,
so right, Kate Bishop, right? So, and that book's on fire too.
Yeah.
So, what I like is that they're not just like, okay, we're just going to give you a Hawkeye show. It's going to be with Jeremy Renner and we're just going to give you his adventures. Like they're bringing in storylines that the fans really enjoy, quite frankly. I'm actually looking forward to the what ifs.
Those are going to be fun. Those are going to be extremely fun. And it's going to be interesting to see, because there's people that are into the MCU and the comic books like us. There's people that are into the comic books only and really don't care about the movies. And there's people that only watch the movies. So to get these people that are only watch the movies, get some of these funny stories that we got from the comics, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to watch Twitter that day when the first episode comes out.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right, Alex, you've come to your favorite time of the show. Are you excited?
Always and forever.
Let me get I got to warm my hands up a little bit. All right, I got to make sure I do this right. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. It's Alex's pick of the week. What do you got for us, Alex?
Yeah, let's talk. Let's keep the Mando fever going. I think when this episode comes out, we'll be 5 episodes in, almost towards the end. Merchandise for this show was taking a while to come out because obviously nobody knew that the Baby Yoda, the child, was going to be a thing, and Disney kept that well under wraps. But when you keep something like that under wraps, you don't have merchandise because merchandise takes a very long time. So, now you're seeing, almost a year later, the child toys, all these Mandalorian action figures, stuff's coming out now for season 2. What just got released is Topps Mandalorian season 1 card sets. Now, with card sets, you always get hobby boxes. Star Wars, definitely, it's 36 packs per box, autograph, yada yada. But for these, they did it a little differently, and you'll remember them because we'll talk about Marvel cards sometime in the future. But they're releasing them in tins. So season 1 hobby boxes come in these Mandalorian.
Oh, that's awesome!
Tins. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's not many cards. You're only getting 8 packs per box per hobby box. But 8 packs, you're getting an autograph. You're getting a.
Oh, they have hits.
Yeah.
You get one autograph per 10?
One hit per 10, one an autograph, and one. I got the robot that flies the ship. I forget his name, and then I got Din Djarin's father. So not the highest autographs, but there's a bunch of autographs in this series of brand new people. I mean, Pedro Pascal, the guy who plays Grand Moff Gideon, people that have never signed Star Wars cards before are in these tins. So they're actually flying off pretty quickly. The place I went to would only allow 3 per customer, and they were about $80 a pop.
Midtown?
So,
Midtown?
No, not Midtown. No. Royal in Maspeth. That's where I get my cards from.
By the way, I was excited to see Timothy Oliphant.
Man, he was great at it.
I mean, come on.
He was great.
He's great, Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
How's he not a bigger star, Alex, by the way?
I think he's a pretty big star for TV and such. And I think that they definitely went out specifically for him for that role. It was great.
Oh my God. How good is he?
Wonderful.
Oh my God.
Dreamboat.
Well, as soon as I saw him, I was like, this is awesome. Listen.
And by the time this comes out, we're talking about episode 1 and 5 or 6 will come out. People will have forgotten the first episode by now.
Timothy Oliphant's awesome. All right, Alex, so you bring up a good point with the trading cards, which leads to our next topic, Marvel trading cards. Now, We'll talk a little bit about Marvel trading cards this week.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about DC in a future episode. Mm-hmm. And we're only going to talk about very, very specific sets today, because what I want you to understand is that a lot of times the sports card market is sort of leading the way in terms of the trends. If for some reason sports card market is at the beginning and then the comic book market takes a little while to catch up. So what you started to see a couple of years ago was you started to see the modern era, basketball, baseball, football explode. You started seeing hundreds, and then immediately you started seeing, maybe a year or two later, you started seeing the modern comic book market explode. I'm talking about books that were out in months. It used to be, Alex, where it would take 15, 20 years for a comic book to increase in value, right? And then all of a sudden, you have all the old timers on the message board saying, how could a comic book from 3 months ago or 4 months ago or 2 weeks ago be selling for more than some of these Bronze Age classic books? Well, you could say the same thing about basketball cards. Yeah. How could a LeBron James card be worth 10 times what a Will Chamberlain card is worth? It's crazy. Yeah. Right? So what's starting to happen is that modern era is going on fire. There was a long period of time where new characters were not being created, where there was no innovative storylines. And now you're starting to see all, the King and the Robin King and all these new storylines coming in. This stuff is just exploding in value, right? Yeah. So what's happening now is on the trading card front, the sports stuff has been exploding for a while. And I said to myself, it's just a matter of time before people start to look at these Marvel characters that are in the films, that are in the TV shows. People want to get these trading cards signed, no different than they want to get the sports card signed. And they're looking for very, very high grade copies. And, these cards are now 10, 15, 20 years old. And even with, the signing that we're doing with the boys people, where we made trading cards, we have the very first trading cards ever of Homelander and Starlight. We did that through, Dynamite, which is great. So there's a real demand there. I mean, we sold a lot of cards for this. So there's definitely an increased demand. So there's a few that I want to talk about today. We can't talk about every single trading card ever, but there's a few sets that I want to pick out today. And the big one, the holy grail, is the 96 Masterpieces Boris and Julie. Yeah. And those boxes are $2,500 to $5,000 per box. And you can say, why? Why are they so expensive? If you recall, when the cards first started coming out in 92, 93, they'd exploded on the scene. You remember the Masterpieces and the tins and everything. Yes. And the end of the life cycle was really starting in 94, 95, 90. The life cycle started to die down by then, where the sales really started to tail off. And that Boris and Julie set came out in 96. And by that time, I think there was a fatigue. It was a very, very expensive box. It was a several $100 box of cards at the time. Yeah, already. Which was crazy. And people were like, oh, who's going to buy those cards? And they just didn't make that many of them. Yep. And by the way, they randomly inserted, you could win the original artwork too, like one in 18,000 packs.
Congratulations cards.
Right, congratulations cards. So it's one of those sets where over time has created a mystique and aura. Even single cards are hundreds of dollars out of that set. Raw. Yeah. Raw.
Trying to finish completists. Right. Yeah.
And when you look back at art that holds up over time, and I'm not going to pick on certain artists or whatever in terms of their styles. They've changed their styles. They've updated their styles. There are certain artists that, they were hot in the 90s, and then all of a sudden the 2000s came along and the styles changed and it didn't translate, or they didn't update their styles. Boris and Julie have stood the test of time. Their artwork stands up. So when you look at the cards that they created back in 96, 24 years ago, they hold up. They're just as if you opened up a pack of those cards today, it would look like they were painted yesterday. I don't know that there's a timelessness to those cards. So it is interesting. That's the Holy Grail set, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell, I mean, they still do work, and especially Boris Vallejo in the comics and Julie Bell in like the fine art side with her Betty Page stuff. I mean, these are huge artists. They did not stop. They weren't just like, oh, do these cards and we'll print them and you can see you later. Then the Hildebrands, also just like super large artists in like the fine art fields.
Yeah, I will tell you, and again, I might be overshooting here a little bit. Whereas Frank Frazetta sort of represented that time period, to me, and maybe I'm overshooting here a little bit, I do feel like Boris and Julie are the next step after Frazetta.
Definitely, yeah. Without Frazetta, you wouldn't have Boris Vallejo or Julie Bell.
Right.
As popular as they are, yeah.
Correct. And you could, listen, I'm not saying that their artwork is going to be the same value as Frazetta in 20 years from now, but they're clearly in the lineage of there was Frazetta and then there's Boris and Julie. And I don't know that there's anyone really close to Boris and Julie, quite frankly.
Maybe it's Joe Jusko, maybe coming down.
Yeah, you have to be around a long time to get to the Boris and Julie level. So the next one that I want to talk about is Peach Mocha, who seems to be doing every cover under the sun right now.
She's on fire, yes.
Oh my God, she's like the Terminator. She's like a robot. Like I don't even know how she can produce what she's producing. Now, full disclosure, I own 2 pieces of Peach art. I own a Captain Marvel cover, which I bought a while ago, and I just got in this beautiful, beautiful Wonder Woman cover.
Whoa! Wow,
huge,
that's huge.
Huge.
Wowzers!
And you want to talk about special touch, Alex? She gives you a little certificate of authenticity now.
How amazing is that?
And she stamps with her. By the way, this is Humberto Ramos was the first guy I ever saw stamp Ramos on his Oscars. So I actually emailed her and I said, Peach, I didn't get one of these with my Captain Marvel art. This must be new. She goes, yeah, I just started doing it. I said, can I get one? She goes, yes. Next time I send you a package, I will get you one. So that's nice. So Peach is on fire. Yeah. She's Marvel exclusive, but she's finishing up some of her other covers for some of the other stuff. I have to tell you, I just love her work. Love her work. And she just did a full set of cards for Upper Deck called 2020 Marvel Anime.
Yeah, the anime cards. Yeah.
Anime cards. She posted all the artwork on her website to all the different cards you get, and you get a sketch card in every box. So the box is like $175 to $200. I don't know if you get one in every box, but the boxes are $175 to $200. I got to tell you, for the value of what you get from her, they're pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah. So that's a high box for a hobby box, but again, original art. I mean, original art of someone that's on top of their game right now, super hot. Her art's selling like crazy. That's a good box.
Listen, I know what the cards sell for. I know what the original art sells for, and it's a deal. I mean, it really is a deal. So that's a box to look out for.
Yeah.
The next 2 that I want to talk about just have different interesting aspects, and you'll probably remember these cards coming out because I remember them coming out. His first one was 1994 Marvel Masterpieces. Now, what's interesting about this is back in the day, they used to make Walmart boxes and hobby boxes, and we'll talk a little bit about DC next week because some of these boxes are really, really hard to find. And what you're finding out, and it started happening with sports cards too, is you think, it was a Walmart exclusive, so there's a million of them. That may have been true at the time, but if you think back in terms of Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of them got chucked, thrown out because they were garbage.
Again, we're talking about the downturn of the Marvel card boom. So it's an you can only find it at one place in Walmart's, which we're in New York City. There's no Walmart's near us. We're one of the highly populated cities in America. There's no Walmart's. You have to go out of your way. And they weren't making a lot of them because the market was gone.
Right. So back in 1994, they did make a lot of Marvel Masterpieces, but the Walmart boxes had bronze holofoils in them.
Yes.
And again, when you're starting to look at old boxes, and you see this with sports cards, is that if there was a channel that had an exclusive or unique, believe it or not, the hobby ones are easier to find because a lot of the hobby shops, they still had them. They kept them. They put them in the back room. They put them in storage. They kept the box. They sold the box. They bought, but back in the day, you weren't really walking into Walmart buying Fleer Marvel X-Men. You were just buying them from your distributor and putting them on your shelf.
There's card shops. Yeah.
There were card shops back then. So that's an interesting one. Those are about $1,200 to $1,300 per box, Alex. I know, it's crazy.
Wacky.
And then the last one I want to talk about is not necessarily rare, and I do remember this set coming out, is 1995 Marvel Metal. Why 1995 Marvel Metal? Why, of all? So even in the sports card market, what happens is they brick.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is this, is that over time, because of the way the cards were made with the glossy surfaces and the metal foil on them, when you open up the pack, the cards stick to each other.
Yep.
And what happens is that when you start to, they become bricks, hence the name brick. When you start to peel them apart, if the foil comes off the card or gets placed on the back of another card, they will not grade it a 10.
Yeah.
So first of all, foil corners could damage very simply just from the foil specks coming off.
Mm-hmm.
And so the foil cards to begin with are very hard to get 10s. And then take into account that they brick over time, you almost get the idea that if it's not already graded or it's not already loose or it's not already gradable, that the concept of all these 10s grades appearing. Mm-hmm. So these have started to go up for auction on eBay in very high grades, and they're starting to yield very, very high prices. It's only a matter of time before the boxes start to follow suit.
Yeah.
So right now, that 95 Marvel Metal box is a $450+ box. I have to tell you, a year ago, those were probably $50.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're just going to keep going up because the single cards in the boxes now are selling for hundreds of dollars in PSA 10. So remember Pokemon?
Yep.
Remember Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yep.
Magic the Gathering? Well, buckle up because
the comic cards are catching up.
Comic cards are catching up. It's going to be the next Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh coming next. And you heard it. You heard it here first, folks. And by the way, if there's any other sets out there that you think that we should talk about that are important to you, you have the Impel sets. The first sets I remember ever buying were the Comic Images sets. We had those. Mm-hmm. I remember they made those Todd McFarlane Spider-Man like Spectra foil cards. Man, oh man, those were the hottest things in the world.
Yep.
All right, Alex, what do we got up next?
Let's talk about something that's been in production purgatory for a very long time, but Why the Last Man looks like it's starting to catch fire and catch up production-wise.
Yeah, so we had Pia Guerra at our show, I'm going to say 8-10 years ago. She is popular, man.
Oh, yeah. She
is very popular. She doesn't do a lot of shows. She does a few shows a year. Extremely popular. Even back then, people loved Why the Last Man.
Fantastic.
That book has been popular ever since it came out.
Yeah, that's what we call an evergreen title. You put a bunch of you put them on the shelf, put graphic novels out there, and you can consistently sell them.
What's the story of Why the Last Man, Alex?
I mean, it's pretty easy, and this is funny because around when it was coming out, there was a lot of these like the Left Behind series and The Last Man on Earth, and we got Walking Dead around the same time. But Why the Last Man is a story of York Brown who and his pet monkey who become the last males on Earth. One morning wakes up and all the males die. They die from a mysterious disease, which actually is never explained in the book. So it'll be funny to see what they do in the TV show. And then it's just that. It's just the explanation of how this man, his mom is in the U.S. government. She becomes president, and she sends a covert op to find her son and get him, to her. And then they go across the country, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And there's cloning involved. It's a pretty fun story. And he's nobody. He's just a magician. He wasn't like a big scientist. He's just a magician living in an apartment with a monkey.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Brian Vaughan, he's become quite the prolific writer. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff. Him and Garth Ennis and a few of these other guys are really crushing it right now.
He does this little book called Saga. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that book, but it's a little popular.
Yeah, that book is on fire. We'll talk about that another day. I mean, the prices are off the charts on that book. I mean,
and that's
crazy.
Not even a property being shipped.
Crazy.
Yeah,
crazy. Okay, so Why the Last Man came out in September of 2002, 18 years ago already. Incredible, right?
My high school graduation, which ages me.
Oh, yeah. So obviously it's Brian K. Vaughan, Pia Guerra, Jose Marzan, and the J.G. Jones cover on the first issue. I would have thought that the pop would have been higher on this book, considering all the hype that there's been around it all these years. There are 311 blue label 9.8s. There are 59 gold label 9.8s. You know what? Maybe it's just a condition-sensitive book. Alex, it's a $900 book in 9.8 on 311 copies.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just look, again, you and I know that book was always selling. Even when it came out, people bought that book. So that might be a book that's just a low pop or hard to get in high grade book. $900 for that book. And like you said, when the TV show comes out, that's going to go up, up, up and away.
Yeah, and I feel like you're going to see more 9.8s hit the market and get graded because, again, like you said, when this book came out, it was publicized enough where people knew it was coming out. It wasn't a surprise indie hit. This was a Vertigo book. DC owned Vertigo. It was big. It was pushed. It was pushed hard. And then, they ended it on their own terms. So it's not like it was a book that got canceled. It didn't get, it's constantly kept garnering more readership.
Right. All right, Alex, I think that does it for this week.
Yep.
Another fun show wrapped up out there. If you think we've missed anything or you think we need to cover anything else, give us a holler.
Definitely.
In the comments. And Alex, we will see you next week. Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.